Hi, this is Richard Wheeler with Virginia Abrasives. We have a Primatech P250 nailer on the table today. We're going to talk about how to check a driver blade to see if it needs to be replaced and how to check your seals and O-rings on your cylinder and Primatech valve system. So we're going to start by removing the hex wrench that's supplied with the tool. Snaps into the back of the unit. All of the Primatech products have a screw-down cylinder system and a keeper that holds the shoulder down to the body or to the casting of the tool. So we're going to take the pressure off of this by loosening. We're going to twist the keeper back because it has a little shoulder again that holds down here. From here we use the hex wrench. We're going to position that in one of the 4 ports that's located on the edge of the cylinder system. I'm going to break it loose by taking the pressure off. Set your hex wrench down, and from there we're going to unscrew the cylinder system just like a jar lid comes out of a jar. Once you feel the threads being released, pull the entire motor assembly out of the tool. So this is the Primatech cylinder system as it's referred to. To check the driver blade, simply pull it out, and you notice it's one piece. It's called a piston driver blade assembly, and it's sold this way. It's sold that way because this needs to be torqued and needs to be set up where it can't be removed. So you want to look at the end of the driver blade, check it for nicks or any obvious break. If it all looks good and the seal on the outside looks good, then this is still a good part and it's ready to go back in. So set that to the side. From there, we're going to examine the Primatech cylinder system. Now if you notice, we have a small gap right here, and that's because we have threads that thread to the left and threads that thread to the right. So when we pull this out, we are going to get some separation. We'll talk about this when we go back in with it in just a few minutes. The first thing we're going to look for is the seal that's on the outside of the lower portion of the cylinder system. So simply spin it around, no nicks, no tears, good and snug. This does not need to be replaced and it's still fully functional. From there, carefully remove the top cylinder by continuing to unscrew. We've got some very fine threads here, so it takes quite a few turns to get it away. And be careful at the end because we don't want the top portion to fall away. So there. So now we simply set this to the side. And we've got the top portion left. Inside of this we have the actuator or the valve itself. Simply pull it away. From there we can examine this for any nicks and cuts. So we've got a seal that runs around the perimeter. We have another seal that runs around the perimeter. We have an O-ring that's embedded into the top of the cylinder valve. Now this is a replaceable valve assembly actuator that can be purchased as a whole assembly rather than remanufacturing or putting the seals and valves back together. So we set this aside. This time you want to look for the O-ring that seals the system when you screw it back in. So if you notice the O-ring runs around the perimeter, again you want to just simply turn it, check it, no nicks, no tears, good and snug, should be ready to go back in. From there we're going to put the valve back into the top section, and to do that we simply reverse our process. Carefully place it in, push it in until it snaps, pick up the lower portion of your cylinder system, carefully start the threads because again they're fine thread. Now remember, we said before that we had a small gap between these two just by the design feature of pulling it out. When we put it back together, we want to make sure that there is no gap here. So we want to make sure that the two metal parts mate and seat firmly. Set this to the side, pick up your piston driver blade assembly, hold it with 2 fingers. As I rotate this back, you should be able to see the driver blade port down in the bottom end. So locate that, get this in the alignment area so that it's going to easily slide in, places in, and it holds firm because it's resting up against the safety that's located in the bottom. We'll talk about the safety on another video that we'll shoot. Pick up your cylinder system, carefully position it, and just gently make sure it engages and goes over the piston driver blade. When it seats to the bottom, tighten it up again by hand. Use your same hex wrench pull up, put full tension on it so that you can't pull it anymore. We don't want to bear down on this or take a chance of bending this, so just good and snug, because remember we had an O-ring that's going to help us seal that cylinder system off to the body. Replace your keeper shoulder so it's back on top. Take your hex wrench, tighten this down good and snug. Now from there I would give that a good hard snug to make sure it doesn't come loose. Replace your hex wrench. By the way, this hex wrench is used all throughout this tool, not only to take the cylinder out, but also to adjust the foot valve, foot assembly. So now the P250 has been checked for driver blade, for O-rings, for seals, and it's ready to go back into your fleet.